There's a particular moment so many people know but rarely talk about. Standing in front of an open refrigerator or a closet full of clothes, staring at nothing in particular, unable to remember what you walked in there to find. It isn't forgetfulness. It's your mind quietly signaling that it's carrying more than it can hold, so much that even small decisions start to slip through the cracks. If that moment feels familiar, if your mind has been running that full lately, then what I'm about to share was written for exactly this moment. Somewhere underneath the noise of your daily life, there is a wish you have stopped saying out loud. Maybe you stopped saying it because it felt foolish to keep hoping. Maybe you stopped because every time you let yourself want it, life seemed to hand you the opposite. So you learned to protect yourself by wanting less, by expecting less, by quietly preparing for disappointment before it even arrives. And yet the wish never actually left. It's still there, patient, waiting for you to believe in again. I want you to know something before we go any further. That wish is not naive. It is not too much. It is not evidence that you don't understand how life really works. It is, in fact, a signal, a compass pointing you toward exactly what your life is trying to become. And the fact that you are here, listening to these words instead of 100 other things you could be doing right now, is not a coincidence. Some part of you is ready. Some part of you already knows that the way you have been thinking, feeling, and expecting has been quietly shaping the very life you've been living, and that same part of you is ready to shape something new. Let yourself exhale. Let your shoulders drop just slightly from wherever they've been holding on. You don't have to fix your whole life in the next few minutes. You only have to be willing to see it a little differently. That's all a shift ever requires, a willingness. Here is the hidden truth that so many people go their entire lives without ever fully absorbing. Your outer world is not the source of your experience. It is the reflection of it. The relationships you attract, the opportunities that appear or disappear, the way money moves towards you or away from you, the way your body feels when you wake up in the morning. All of it is downstream of something quieter and less visible. It is downstream of what you believe is true about yourself and what you believe is possible for your life. Change what you believe, and the reflection has no choice but to eventually change too. Not because of magic, but because belief shapes attention. Attention shapes action, and action, repeated daily, even in small ways, shapes destiny. This is why so many people feel stuck, even when they are working so hard to change their circumstances. They keep rearranging the reflection without ever touching the source. They change jobs, but carry the same belief that they'll never be paid what they're worth, so a new version of the same limitation follows them. They enter new relationships, but carry the same belief that they are hard to love, so the new relationship slowly begins to feel like the old one. It isn't bad luck. It isn't a curse. It is simply the mind doing exactly what minds do, creating consistency between the inner world and the outer one, over and over, until the inner world is finally given permission to change. So let's give it that permission now. Picture for a moment a sunrise. Not a metaphor you've heard 1,000 times, but an actual sunrise. The kind where the sky moves from a deep, quiet blue into a soft blush of gold, and the light doesn't rush. It arrives gently, spreading across the horizon a little at a time, touching the tops of trees first, then rooftops, then finally reaching the ground where you stand. That is how change moves through a life. It doesn't flood in all at once. It touches the highest, most visible parts of you first. A new thought here, a small moment of calm there, and then it moves quietly downward until it reaches every part of your day. You are standing at that horizon right now. The light is already beginning. You may not feel the full warmth of it yet, but it is coming, and it is coming because something in you has already opened the door to let it in. I am safe. Let that settle for a moment. Even if it doesn't feel entirely true yet, I am safe. Safety is not something that has to be earned through control. It is something you can choose to feel in your body right now, in this breath, regardless of what tomorrow holds. When the body believes it is safe, the mind stops bracing for disaster. And when the mind stops bracing, it becomes available for something better, for creativity, for connection, for the kind of clear thinking that actually moves your life forward instead of just managing its problems. Think back gently to a time in your life when you felt genuinely at ease. Maybe it was a particular afternoon, a particular room, a particular person's presence. Notice that in that memory, you weren't performing. You weren't trying to prove anything. You were simply allowing yourself to exist. That version of you is not gone. It is not a phase that ended. It is still inside you, and it is available to you again the moment you decide to stop waiting for permission from the outside world to feel that way. This is one of the gentlest and most powerful shifts available to you. The understanding that peace does not have to wait for your circumstances to improve. Peace can come first. And when peace comes first, circumstances have a strange way of rearranging themselves to match it. Let's go a little deeper. Many people carry, without realizing it, a quiet belief that they have to struggle in order to deserve good things. Somewhere along the way, difficult childhood moment, an offhand comment, a culture that praises exhaustion as proof of worth. They absorb the idea that ease is suspicious, that rest is lazy, that if something comes easily it probably isn't real or won't last. Simply through consistency, your life can move like that river. You do not have to fight every obstacle head on. You can flow around what isn't meant for you, trusting that the path of least resistance is not a lesser path. It is often the wisest one. I release what no longer serves me. Say that quietly to yourself, even just in your mind. I release what no longer serves me. Feel what comes up when you say it. Maybe a memory, maybe a tightness in your jaw, maybe a name or a moment you've been holding on to without meaning to. You don't have to resolve it right now. You only have to notice it, and in noticing it, you begin to loosen its grip. There is a particular kind of relief that comes when you stop carrying something you were never meant to carry alone. Picture setting something down, an old container, heavy in your hands, filled with every worry you've collected over months or years. Picture walking to the edge of a wide, open field and simply setting it on the ground. You don't have to destroy it. You don't have to analyze every item inside it. You just have to set it down and take one step forward without it. Notice how much lighter your arms feel. Notice how much more room there suddenly is in your chest to breathe. This is what it means to release control. Not to stop caring about your life, but to stop believing that gripping tighter is what keeps you safe. The tighter you grip something, the less room there is for anything new to enter your hands. Open palms receive. Closed fists cannot. I trust life. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to believe that even the difficult chapters are part of a story that is still being written in your favor. Trust isn't the absence of uncertainty. Trust is the decision to keep moving forward with an open heart, even while uncertainty is present. And every time you choose trust over fear, even in a small moment, you are retraining your nervous system to expect good things instead of bracing for bad ones. Let's visit a garden together for a moment, one that exists just for you in your own imagination. See yourself standing at its entrance. Maybe there's a low wooden gate, slightly weathered, opening onto a path lined with soft green growth. As you walk in, notice the quality of the light. Warm, golden, unhurried, the kind of light that makes everything look a little more alive than usual. Somewhere in this garden, there are flowers just beginning to bloom, still closed, still gathering their strength before they open fully. That is you, right now, in certain areas of your life. Not finished blooming, not behind. Simply gathering strength before the next opening. Notice that nothing in this garden is rushing. The flowers don't force themselves open before they're ready, and yet none of them stay closed forever either. There is a rhythm to growth that cannot be hurried, but also cannot be stopped once it begins. Your growth is following that same rhythm right now, even in the moments it doesn't feel like anything is happening, especially in those moments. I am worthy of good things. Let this land somewhere real, not as a performance, but as a quiet fact you are choosing to accept. You do not have to prove your worth through achievement, through exhaustion, through being endlessly useful to everyone around you. Your worth was never up for negotiation. It was there before you accomplished anything, and it will still be there long after any single accomplishment fades from memory. Worth is not something you build. It is something you uncover, layer by layer, the same way you might clear away years of dust from something valuable that was buried, not created by the clearing. There is a mountain I want you to picture now, tall and quiet against a clear sky. You are not climbing it today. You are simply standing at its base, looking up, feeling the scale of it, the permanence of it. Mountains are not in a hurry. They were not built in a single season, and they do not doubt their own solidity simply because the weather changes around them. Some days there is a storm at the summit. Some days there is perfect stillness. The mountain remains the mountain either way. You, too, can remain steady in who you are even while the weather of your circumstances shifts around you. Your identity is not the storm. It is the mountain beneath it. Now let's talk about the moments that test this, the days when an old fear resurfaces, when a bill arrives at the wrong time, when a relationship feels strained, when your body feels tired in that bone, deep way we started with. These moments are not proof that nothing has changed. They are simply invitations to practice the very shift you're learning right now. Every uncomfortable moment is an opportunity to ask a single, powerful question. What would it look like to respond to this from trust instead of fear? You don't have to get it perfect. You only have to ask the question again and again until asking it becomes as natural as breathing. I choose peace, not because everything is peaceful, but because peace is available to you as a choice regardless of what is happening around you. Every single day offers you thousands of small moments where you can choose a slightly calmer thought, a slightly more generous interpretation, a slightly softer response. None of these choices need to be dramatic. They accumulate quietly, the way sunlight accumulates into warmth over the course of a long afternoon, until one day you notice that your baseline state has shifted without you having to force anything. Let's talk gently about money, because so many people carry silent tension here without realizing how much it shapes their days. If you have ever felt a flinch of anxiety at the thought of your finances, I want you to notice that flinch without judging it. It's simply a pattern learned somewhere along the way, and patterns can be unlearned. Abundance is not about greed. It is about alignment, about recognizing that resources, like everything else, tend to flow toward places of trust and away from places of fear and scarcity. This doesn't mean pretending your bank account is different than it is. It means beginning, quietly and consistently, to imagine ease around money instead of tension. I welcome new possibilities. Say it as if it's already beginning to be true, because in a very real sense, the moment you say it and mean it, it already is. Picture an open door for a moment, not a symbolic, distant door, but one close enough to walk through right now. Beyond it is warm light, and you cannot see exactly what's on the other side, but you can feel that it's good. You don't need the full picture before you're allowed to walk forward. You only need enough trust to take the next step. Certainty was never a requirement for courage. Courage has always been about moving forward without certainty, trusting that clarity arrives after the step, not before it. I trust the journey ahead, even the parts you cannot yet see, even the timing you don't fully understand. There is an intelligence to the unfolding of a life that is far larger than any single day's worries can measure. The seed does not understand the forest it will one day become part of, and yet it grows anyway, trusting a process it cannot fully see. You are allowed that same trust. Let's return for a moment to your body, because so much of this shift is not just mental. It lives in the nervous system too. Notice right now, wherever you're holding tension, the jaw, the shoulders, the space between the eyebrows. You don't have to force it to release. Just bring your attention there gently, like a warm hand resting on the spot, and let it soften on its own timing. Notice your breath, how it has probably slowed simply from the act of listening this closely to your own body. This is what safety feels like at a physical level, not the absence of challenge, but the presence of enough calm to meet challenge without being overwhelmed by it. I am becoming stronger every day, not stronger in the sense of hardened or armored, but stronger in the sense of more rooted, more clear about who you are, less easily shaken by things that would have derailed you months or years ago. Strength like this doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up quietly in the moments you handle something with more grace than you expected to, in the moments you catch an old fear before it spirals, in the moments you choose a kinder thought about yourself, almost without noticing you've done it. There's a particular kind of morning I want you to imagine now, one still ahead of you, not yet lived. You wake up and, for a moment, before any thought arrives, there is simply stillness. And then, instead of the usual rush of worry, there is a quiet sense of okayness. Light is coming through the window, soft and early. You feel rested in a way that has less to do with hours of sleep and more to do with the absence of a fight happening inside you. That morning is not a fantasy. It is a preview of where this shift is leading you, one small choice at a time. I am open to receive. This phrase is worth sitting with a little longer than the others, because so many people, without realizing it, have quietly closed themselves off from receiving, not because they don't want good things, but because somewhere along the way they learned that wanting too openly leads to disappointment. So they built a kind of guard around their own hope. If that's true for you, I want you to know that guard was never meant to be permanent. It was a form of protection that made sense at the time. But you are allowed to gently lower it now, a little at a time, and let good things find their way to you, without your having to control every detail of how they arrive. Let's imagine, one more time, an infinite horizon, the kind you might see standing at the edge of an open field, or a quiet shoreline at dawn, where the sky and the land seem to blend into a single soft line far in the distance. That horizon represents everything about your future that hasn't been decided yet. It is not fixed. It is not written. It is open, spacious, and far more generous than the smaller stories your mind sometimes tells you on your hardest days. Every day, you are walking toward that horizon, and every belief you shift, every ounce of trust you choose, every moment of peace you allow yourself, changes what that horizon eventually holds. I want to speak now about the people in your life, because transformation like this rarely stays contained to just one person. As you begin to feel safer, calmer, more worthy, more open, you will likely notice something interesting. Some relationships will deepen, becoming easier and warmer almost without effort, while others may fall away naturally, without conflict, simply because they were built around an old version of you that no longer matches who you're becoming. Both of these are signs of health, not signs of failure. You are not required to keep every relationship in your life exactly as it has always been in order to grow. Growth sometimes reshapes the shape of your circle, and that reshaping is not something to fear. It is something to trust. Let yourself imagine, for a moment, the kind of connection you actually long for, not a fantasy, but a felt sense of being truly seen, truly understood, truly welcomed exactly as you are, without having to perform or shrink or over-explain yourself. That feeling is not out of reach. It begins quietly, with the way you learn to see and welcome yourself first. Connection with others has always mirrored the relationship you have with your own heart. As that relationship softens and deepens, so does your capacity to receive real closeness from the people around you. I want to gently acknowledge something here. If parts of your life still look nothing like what we've been describing, if your body still feels tired, if money still feels tight, if relationships still feel complicated, that does not mean this shift isn't working. Transformation is rarely visible in the moment it's happening. It happens beneath the surface first, the way roots grow underground long before anything is visible above the soil. What you are doing right now, simply by listening this closely, simply by allowing these words to settle into you instead of resisting them, is root work. It matters even when you cannot yet see the evidence of it. Let's take one more visualization together before we begin moving toward a close. Picture yourself walking along a path that leads gently uphill, not steep, not exhausting, just a slow and steady incline through open land bathed in early light. Behind you, the path curves back through everything you've already lived, the hard years, the disappointments, the moments you weren't sure you'd make it through. Notice, as you look back, how much smaller those moments look from this distance. How survivable they were even though they didn't feel that way at the time. You made it through every single one of them. Every single one. That is not a small thing. That is proof, walking evidence, that you are far more resilient than your hardest days ever gave you credit for. Now turn your attention forward again, up the gentle incline, toward the light spreading across the top of the hill. You don't need to see the whole path to keep walking it. You only need to trust the next few steps, and then the few after that. This is how every transformed life is actually built, not through one dramatic leap, but through thousands of small, trusting steps, most of them so quiet that no one around you even notices them happening. And yet, one day, someone will look at your life and call it remarkable, without ever knowing about the quiet, steady walking that made it so. I am becoming who I was always meant to be. Let that settle without pressure, without needing to define exactly what that means yet. You don't have to have the whole picture today. You only have to keep choosing trust over fear, peace over urgency, worth over self-doubt. One moment at a time, one day at a time. Let's spend a little more time here, because there's one more layer worth uncovering before we close. So much of what keeps a person feeling stuck isn't a lack of effort. It's a quiet mismatch between what they say they want and what they secretly believe they're allowed to have. You can say you want more ease and still, somewhere underneath, believe that ease belongs to other people, people who were luckier, or born into different circumstances, or simply wired differently than you. If any part of you has ever thought that, I want you to gently question it right now, not with force, but with curiosity. Where did that belief come from? Whose voice does it sound like? And is it actually true, or is it just old, familiar, and unexamined? Beliefs feel like facts because they're repeated so often, not because they're accurate. A belief you've carried since childhood has simply had more rehearsals than a new one you're only beginning to practice today. That's the only real difference between them. Repetition, not truth. Which means the belief that good things are for other people is not a life sentence. It's a habit of thought, and habits, no matter how old, can be replaced with new ones through the same mechanism that built them in the first place. Gentle, patient repetition. I welcome new possibilities. Say it again, and this time notice if it feels even slightly more familiar than it did at the beginning of our time together. That small shift in familiarity is exactly how new beliefs take root. They don't arrive fully formed and permanent. They arrive as small, slightly uncomfortable statements that you keep choosing to say anyway, until one day they stop feeling like statements and start feeling like simple truth. Let's imagine one more scene together. A calm morning, still ahead of you, somewhere in the near future. In this morning you're doing something ordinary. Making coffee, perhaps, or standing at a window watching the light change. And in the middle of that ordinary moment, you notice a feeling you haven't felt in a while, a kind of quiet contentment that isn't waiting for anything else to happen first. Not relief that a problem finally resolved, not excitement about an upcoming event, just contentment present on its own, needing no external reason to exist. That feeling is available to you far sooner than most people believe possible, because contentment was never actually dependent on your circumstances being perfect. It only ever depended on your willingness to feel it now, in whatever imperfect moment you happen to be standing in. There will still be difficult days ahead. This shift doesn't promise a life with no more storms in it. What it offers instead is something quieter, and in many ways, more valuable, the steadiness to move through those storms without losing yourself in them. Picture, one more time, that mountain from earlier, weathering a passing storm at its summit. The storm doesn't ask the mountain's permission to arrive, and it doesn't stay forever either. It moves through and clears, the way every storm eventually does. And the mountain is still there afterward, unchanged in what actually matters. You have that same steadiness available to you, growing stronger every time you choose trust over panic, even by the smallest degree. As we come toward the end of this time together, I want you to notice how you feel right now compared to when we began. Even if the shift feels subtle, even if it's just a slightly slower breath, or a slightly looser jaw, or a slightly quieter mind, that subtlety matters. Small shifts, repeated daily, are exactly how a life changes shape over time. You don't need a lightning bolt. You need consistency, gentleness, and a willingness to keep choosing the thoughts and beliefs that support the life you actually want, rather than the ones that simply repeat the past out of habit. Before you go on with your day, let yourself take one more full, slow breath. As you breathe in, imagine golden light entering with the breath, filling your chest, your shoulders, moving down through your arms and settling into your hands. As you breathe out, imagine releasing anything you've been carrying that isn't yours to carry anymore. Old fears, old doubts, old versions of a story that no longer describes who you are becoming. You are allowed to set it down. You are allowed to walk forward lighter. Your transformation has already begun. Not tomorrow. Not when things finally settle down. Now, in this quiet moment. Simply because you were willing to listen this closely to your own life. You are supported, even in the ways you cannot yet see. You are capable, even on the days you doubt it. You are worthy, without needing to earn it through struggle or exhaustion. Good things are already moving toward you, making their way across whatever distance remains between where you are and where you're headed. And every calm breath, every trusting thought, every small act of self-kindness is clearing the path for them to arrive a little faster. A new chapter is opening for you, gently, the way a door opens onto warm light, rather than the way it's forced. You don't have to know exactly what's written on its pages yet. You only have to be willing to walk through, one soft, trusting step at a time, carrying nothing but the parts of yourself worth bringing with you. Wherever you are right now, however your day unfolds from here, carry this with you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where the next part of your story begins. And it begins the moment you choose, again and again, to believe that something good is not only possible for you, but already on its way. Rest in that for a moment, and then, whenever you're ready, carry it gently into the rest of your day.